Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ivan Vincent. I've had this channel here since 2014. You know, I don't come on here to make people mad or agitate people. To be honest with you, I just wish the world was a lot different than it is now. And, you know, for the people who say we're one thing and there's people on our side who say they're something else, I just wish it wasn't happening. That's what I wish, is that we would just get back to where we're living together normally again. But you know, there's an old saying that an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. I think that's the way the saying went. And something happened to me 50 years ago, and we just passed the 50th anniversary on April the 27th, around April the 27th of 1974, so 50 years ago. And you may be wondering what happened to me, what victimized me 50 years ago. I was 7 years old when that happened, by the way. I'll be 58 in December. So it's been ongoing, and the truth of the matter is my childhood was such a long struggle. My parents divorced in 73. This crime occurred in 1974. I almost died a few times when I was a kid, so all of that kind of pushed it all back to the back of my memory. And I'm going to start by saying right off the bat that I was just having a conversation with my brother, who actually remembers. So a younger brother remembers everything, you know. And this may be hard for you to believe, and what else to happen is even going to be harder for you to believe. So I'm sorry that it is that way, and I'm sorry if you don't believe me, but you know, I've lived my life the best I could. I've always worked. I've done everything right. But someone took something from me. They said they were going to do something for me. They took it, they used it, and literally they left me in the dump. And I was a kid, you know, when I was a kid, we were very poor, went through a very bad, and I'm not trying to play the pity party now because I worked my whole life again. And so if you haven't seen any of my past videos, I'm just saying here that I don't want anything from him. I want the truth, which is probably going to make things happen after that. Which, you know, to some people, maybe they think that that's all this is about, and no, it isn't. I've worked, like I said, my whole life. I became disabled in 2015. I've been trying to tell the truth since I first realized what happened in 1999 and 2000. It took me like a year to recall everything that happened back in 1974. And I'll go into some of this with you all, and you know, you can take it for what it's worth. And I know it's hard for you to believe this, but when I was a kid, I lived around the corner from George Lucas's cousin, okay? His name was Jack Hamburger. He was standing in my front yard one day. We were playing Pirates. This is right after Easter of 1974, okay? And my brother got this pirate Easter basket, pirate-themed Easter basket. He loved Errol Flynn. That's why this kind of interview thing he did once, kind of where he was talking about it being a swashbuckling tale, he didn't realize my brother was a huge Errol Flynn fan. So, we were playing Pirates, and I pulled my brother had, I guess I had the sword at the moment, and I was fighting with someone else, and I said, I'm a Jedi Knight and I'm gonna use the Force to beat you. And everybody stopped and looked at me. Okay, now this is 1974. Yeah, 3 years before Star Wars came out. Okay, and the kid that was standing there, his name was Jack Hamburger. He was George Lucas's cousin. Okay, so he runs home and tells George Lucas, And after that, he was at my house literally almost every day trying to get me to come over to his house and get on the phone with George so George could pick my brain and find out who knew, who else knew. And then he told me he was going to make me rich and famous. Now see, here's where the whole problem lies. Because had he not said, I'm going to make you rich and famous, and I had just given that to him, the only thing it would be was like the unsung hero thing, and I would have said, okay, well, you know, I gave it to him, I lost out, you know. But no, he said, I'm going to make you rich and famous. That is an oral contract. Whether it was written, I was 7 years old. How are you going to make a written contract with a 7-year-old kid? I mean, you probably could have, but he never had my parents' permission to even talk to me, okay? So he kept getting his cousin Jack Hamburger to get me over to the house. The same day he got me on the phone, he got Jedi Knights in the Force. He said, and see, here's the thing. Again, I talked about this in my other video, that he stole a lot of stuff from Lee Brackett, Edmund Hamilton. Whether you know this or not, go to the Star Killers channel and watch a video called Did Lee Brackett Ghost Write Star Wars a Theory? Which it's not a theory, because once you watch his video and you realize everything that was in his movie came from their books, except what he took from me and what he took from Star Trek, what he took from the music people, composers, right? Eric Wolfgang Korngold, part of his, you know, soundtrack came from him. Anyway, I don't want to get back off the trail. The point is that he made a promise to a 7-year-old kid, and he never kept it. The next year, I was in a foster home. Now, this is me, 7 years old. I had pulled a coffee percolator down on me years before this, so I nearly died. So I had a very, very great imagination. Now where Jedi Knight came from, whether I was actually dead, I thought I was dead. I thought I was in heaven. So you can say what you want. I pulled a coffee percolator down on me. So I've always believed that. If you don't believe in God, that's your own opinion, okay? But also the fact is, he still got it from me. So whether you believe it came from me being in heaven or whether you think I just got it from a dream, he took it from me and told me he was going to make me rich and famous. Now, that is a crime, since he didn't ever keep his word. 50 years later, okay? Now, in 2000, I started writing him. He tried to send an FBI guy to feel me out. The guy came and acted like he was looking for someone else, felt me out a little bit, left, and came back again months later because I kept writing to George, and I wasn't really threatening him. He tried to act like I was threatening him, but I wasn't. They tried to file a police report and had me arrested by the Bedford, Ohio Police Department. Now, mind you, he already told me he was going to make me rich and famous, so why would I not have the right to write him and say, hey, look, do you remember me? You promised this and this. No, he tried to have me arrested. So the police officer, the detective, looked at the messages and stuff I sent to him, and he said, you know, you weren't threatening him, so, you know, it looks like you have a case. Why don't you get a lawyer? I said, I've been trying to get a lawyer. And that's the thing. I tried for years after that. I had written every president from George W. Bush to Barack Obama to President Trump. I've written 3 presidents. I wrote Oprah Winfrey. I wrote Montel Williams. I wrote USA Today. I wrote Newsweek. I wrote every single... I wrote William Rehnquist when he was still alive, when he was the head of the Supreme Court. Nobody did anything. So they didn't care. So here's the part that's even more unbelievable, okay? Y'all been hearing all this stuff about them spying on people without FISA warrants. They've been doing it a lot longer than you think. And here's why I know they have. Stop now. Come here. My dog's over here whining. Come here. It's okay. Come here. Come over here. Anyway, I'm just, trying to get him to say, hey, look, I know what I did. Okay, I admit it. You You come to me and say, okay, he didn't even try to make a deal or nothing. He just tried to have me arrested, and he's the one who did what he did. I didn't go looking for him in 1974. He came looking for me. Then he's going to try to have me arrested for trying to, collect on our deal. Of course, that was 20 years ago. My wife was always scared that he would try to take us out or something, so I started packing, after that. But he tried to have me arrested again by the Bedford, Ohio Police Department. They threatened. He said, "Don't write him no more." So I didn't write him anymore. I started writing everybody else in the world, and in 2014, I started making videos. Well, here's the thing. Here's the kicker. Right after, and this all happened in April of 1974, whenever his nephew, or his cousin was in my front yard, and then he ran and told George, and then he got me on the phone. He almost killed me the same day. He got Jedi Knights in the Force from me. There's a long story. You just have to go watch the video. I'm not getting into that. But that's part of the reason why I even remembered all this. We moved to Florida. In Florida, I wrote Jedi Knights in the Force on a piece of paper in 1974. I had a forensic lab in named Spitkin Laboratories in Lansing, Michigan. Okay, the guy, he's like one of those CSI type. You can get him in a court and he can testify to anything. He can say, "Hey, look, this piece of paper was from this company on this date. It was produced, and then this ink was made, and then the two of them were put together." So he's going to tell you, yeah, that piece of paper was from 1974. I bet you both the paper and the ink were older than that. They were probably from the 60s or 70s. Who knows? However long an ink pen can last, because that was 1974 when I put it on the paper. Well, here's the thing. Now, my brothers were sitting there in 1974 when I put that on that paper. And I took that piece of paper into my mom's room and pulled out a sleeve. I had a document sleeve, and I put it in there with my birth certificate, my medical records, everything of mine, my immunization book. We had all kinds of stuff back then, and each one of us kids had our own sleeve. So I put that piece of paper in my sleeve in 1974, and it stayed there until 2000. Now, in 2000, me and my mom she was telling the story about me following this Tinker toy, which, remember I was telling you, hit George Lucas's cousin, almost killed me. That's not what happened. I said that's not what happened, because that's how this whole thing came about. Why I remembered it all was starting in 1999. We were staying in the living room. She started telling that story, and I was like, that's not what happened. And that was the beginning of it, because what happened was by Jack Hamburger's hand, George Lucas's cousin. That's why I know that's not what happened. So right after this, in 1999, now we're back to the future part, I went to Port St. Lucie, Florida. I wrote that on paper in West Palm Beach, Florida in 1974. It's kind of odd that I ended up right back there. And I still didn't remember. I came back up to Louisville, and me and my mom was going through the paperwork. All of our old paperwork, getting things together that we were going to send to my uncles to put into storage. And we pull out my document sleeve, and I pull out that piece of paper. It says Jedi Knights in the Force. And I go, what is this? So again, it's like I said, I didn't remember. Oh, Davey drew that, my nephew. Well, here's the problem with that whole thing she said. First off, I remember drawing it now. I even remember there was a car drawn. It said Jedi Knights in the Force, and then there was a car. I remember what the car was supposed to be, and I remember writing that. And I remember asking my mom how to spell Jedi. She told me how to spell Jedi. My older brother told me how to spell Knight. My older brother remembers Knight, and that's why I was just telling you. I was having a conversation with him a while back. He remembers, but he just doesn't remember what night I said. Now, my younger brother was outside when we were playing Pirates in the front yard. When that Jack Hamburger kid was standing there, George Lucas's cousin, And I said, I'm a Jedi Knight. I'm going to use the Force to defeat you. And I told you, everybody stopped and looked at me. My younger brother my brothers, I don't remember which one of them asked me, what's a Jedi Knight? And I said, it's someone who uses the Force to fight evil. My younger brother, David, said, maybe you're the evil one. Okay? Now, skip back ahead. 1974, same year. We're in West Palm Beach, Florida. Outside playing. I'm gonna go in the house and put that on a piece of paper, write it down, because that kid's cousin might steal it. I said, nobody's gonna steal that stupid thing. See, now, that's my younger brother David again. Now, see, he was the one who said, maybe you're the evil one, and then nobody's gonna steal that stupid thing. Those two things he said. And when I reminded him of those two things, he remembers. He remembers everything. See, he remembers me saying Jedi Knights in the Force. He is not the most dependable person in the world. So that's why I'd have much rather my older brother had remembered, where he, because it's like having more of a solid, person who remembers. But both of them do remember. So my older brother just doesn't remember what kind of night I said. Neither one of them remembered it at all. By 1999, they didn't remember that at all. Okay. So, I'm sitting there, and my mom says, well, after she said, Davy drew that, she said, let me put that back in there. She put it back in there, and it went into all of our paperwork, and guess where it went? Out to storage. Way out in the country. It wasn't in a storage bin somewhere where it was on private property. So somebody got to it. But let me get to that part. Okay. Now, after I moved to Ohio in 2000, right after that, when me and my mom put that piece of paper back in that sleeve, and she put it in that document holder, and then it went into storage. So I moved to Ohio. I met my wife. I moved to Ohio. We got married in April of 2001. But before we got married, I started remembering everything. It was like a floodgate opened, and I remembered everything. I remembered Jack Hamburger. And see, it still took me a while to remember his name, because I kept remembering. My brother kept saying, he's your friend. He's your friend. Jack is your friend. That's what I kept not, I was trying to remember. And I went through this whole thing with the addresses. You can go back and look how I had to go to the Louisville Public Library and get copies of the Suburban directory. Sorry. The Suburban directory is like the phone book, right? So, and it showed, who lived in that house around the corner from me. You know what I mean? So I went back too far the first time, and he wasn't there. And I was like, no. And I got 74 and 75. He moved in 74. Actually, I think he moved into 73, but he wasn't in the book. His dad wasn't in the book till 74, 75, Jack Hamburger. Okay. Now, how do I know that Jack Hamburger is George Lucas's cousin? Even, how would you put those two names together? Why would I? Why would I say somebody named Hamburger's related to somebody named Lucas? They're the only reason I know to connect them is because of what he did to me that day. He got me on the phone, what he told me, and what he took was Jedi Knight. Now, again, like I told you in other videos, Lee Brackett, and Hamilton had a Force too. Her husband specifically had a Force called the Force. But here's the thing. I was 7 years old. I'd never read a single one of Lee Brackett or Edmund Hamilton's books, so I knew nothing of their Force. The Force I knew was what I saw. Again, you can argue whether it was a dream or I was in heaven. I almost died like 3 times when I was a kid, man. And actually more than that in my whole life. So, anyway, I'm still here. My wife passed away in 2020. The last few years have been a nightmare. Literally, I've lost 33 people since August of 2020. 33 friends and family. 3 of my best friends, and the rest are friends, friends' fiancés or family. So every person, I have a list of 33 people. Every person on it I knew, except like my 2 best friends' fiancés. I didn't know their fiancés, but their fiancés died. But those were my best friends. So, that's the only 2 I didn't personally know out of 33 people. But I won't get into what I think the major cause of that was. Anyway, there's a lot going on in the world, and I really, like I said, I'm being honest, I don't want nothing from him. I want him to tell the truth, which so me saying I don't want nothing from him kind of can sound dishonest to some people, because when he admits the truth, if he admits the truth, that it would cause some big news thing run, and everybody would be trying to talk to me then. They don't want to talk to me now until they find out that I'm telling the truth, and then they'll all be beating my door down, but I don't want to talk to him. I don't want nothing from him. I just wanted him to tell the truth. He should have kept his deal in 1974. He should have, well, of course, he didn't know Star Wars was going to be a success till after 77. So at least he could have caught up to me in 1978 or 79. I was poor then too. He could have caught up to me then, but no, he didn't. No, he didn't. There was times after that. I was so poor, I lived next to the projects, and I was actually poorer than the kids who lived in the projects. And here I'm the guy George Lucas took Jedi Knights and the Force from and used it in a movie that's made, I think 20th Century Fox made like $25 billion or something. George sold it to Disney for $5 billion. Here's the thing. Again, some people may disagree with me on this. When he had someone watching me, and because I skipped that part of the story. In 2000, after he tried to have me arrested, and actually it was 2001 when he tried to have me arrested, sorry. I called my brothers on the phone. So from that point on, I started trying to get my brothers to go to the storage place on our family's property and get my sleeve and mail it to me. And Vince, or one of them, was asking me what was in it, or I told them why on the phone. They didn't remember. They still didn't really remember it well until I started telling the whole story to them over and over again. Look, don't you remember this? Don't you remember that? When this happened, when that happened? Oh, I do remember that. Yeah, I know you do. Now, both my brothers remember everything surrounding Jedi Knight, okay? And my younger brother remembers me saying Jedi Knight and the Force, okay, in 1974. Okay, you can take it to the bank. I don't care if it was me or if they had said it and it was them and I knew it, I would say it for them. But it's not the case. It was me that it happened to. They say it because they know what happened. George Lucas is corrupt. He could have been honest a long time ago. Big Fat Liar isn't just a movie, and it's a thing that, that piece of paper was stored away out in the country, okay? Now I tell my brothers to go get it several times over the next couple years. I really honestly don't remember when the last time I told them to go get it was. Now I started making YouTube videos in 2014. Boom, they hit me with a bad algorithm because I had a video that hit almost 50,000, then it just literally stopped. All my videos stopped at that point. After October of 2014, none of my videos will get 100 views. It takes them a year. So they put me under probably one of the worst algorithms you could possibly imagine. How you go from 49,500 and something views in a week down to you're lucky to hit 100 in a year. It took that video 5 years to break 50,000. If you won't believe me, go look at the video in my list called Why George Lucas Hates Disney, and go back and look. And it. Here's the thing: whoever got that piece of paper went out into my family's property, whether they blackmailed someone or got someone inside who heard me. They listened. They had to be listening to my phone. Here's the thing: nobody knew that piece of paper existed except for my mother until I reminded my brothers on the phone after 2000. So how would anybody have known it was there to go get it? And why I know that someone went and got it is because my brothers both had document sleeves too, and both of theirs were still there. Mine was the only one missing. I didn't have any other enemies in the world. I don't have nobody had any reason to do anything like that. So why would somebody just go take my document sleeve with my birth certificate, my diplomas, my certificates, So, quit. I think I heard a thump outside and my dogs heard it too. Here's the thing. Someone had to be listening. They had to be listening, and whether they had FISAs or no FISAs, I don't know. But I would say they weren't using FISAs because it's easier to track them that way. I put in FOIA requests in 2021, and I think, and now come over here, come here, stop whining, come over here, come here, come here. You want a treat? I'll get you a treat. I bet he'll eat one of these. Here he comes. The pork rinds. All right, but here's the thing. I wouldn't be saying any of this if it wasn't true, okay? I would much rather him have been honest from the very start, and we wouldn't be in this position. Everything that has happened now is because of what George Lucas did. Everything that's happened to our country is because of what our government's done. So, the fact that my evidence disappeared, someone was listening to me. I put in FOIA requests, I got stonewalled, okay? Again, I tried to write every major media outlet in the United States, and no one cared. And that's a symptom of what's wrong with this country. And I'm going to be honest with you, because I really think, it's like that saying, in matters of justice, it's not the size of the injustice, it's because matters that treat people poorly are bad no matter where they are. I forget how that quote goes. There's another one like that, and I think that one was Albert Einstein. That was one from the other one I told you I think was Martin Luther King Jr. But it's just the thing, we can't just keep turning our head and saying, oh, we're going to ignore this because it's an inconvenient truth for us. Everybody loves Star Wars. That's great. Ever since I learned the truth in 1999, and again, like I said, my mother was telling the story about this Tinker toy, the whole incident, and that's not what happened, and that's where I started remembering Jack Hamburger and what had really happened. And that was the day that George Lucas took Jedi Knights in the Force from me on the phone and told me he was going to make me rich and famous. So that was 1974. The reason I remember all this stuff so well now too was was not just remembering that, but that was the year the big tornado hit Louisville. It was April the 3rd, 1974. The Easter was on the 14th. That's when my brother got the Easter basket with the pirate theme, and he was big on the Errol Flynn. And I told him about that, and he said, I remember that. And I remember because I was a big fan of Errol Flynn. So we talked for about a couple hours about this here not recently. And, again, he's always worked his whole life. He's not somebody he's just going to jump on board with somebody and say something that's not true. And like me, I don't make up things about people. Again, but he did that, and then the abominable thing was having someone steal my evidence. That just, why would you do that? Why would you take all of my documentation from my childhood as well? You didn't even bother to leave that. I want my stuff back. I really do. I want my stuff back. I want my certificate of completion from the Sears Extension Institute, wasn't it? That you took in there with it. It was the Basic Principles and Applications of Electricity and Electronics. I passed that course, and I would flat out blew that whole course away. So that was in there. My diploma was in there. My medical immunization book was in there. Everything of my childhood was in my sleeve, and you took it along with the evidence. Why didn't you just take the piece of evidence? Easier to just, here it is, here, shove it back in the sleeve and take the whole thing, right? You sent your FBI scumbag out, or CIA, I don't care, you're all scumbags in my opinion. And I'm not afraid to tell you you're scumbags, because anybody who would go steal something, especially from something like that, and I was a kid when he did it, you have no soul, you have no morals, you have no ethics, and you're a piece of manure. And I'm just gonna tell you the way it is. And George Lucas, you're no better. You know what you did. You stole from a 7-year-old kid. You made a deal. You committed oral fraud. Everything you used in Star Wars was stolen from Lee Brackett, Edmund Hamilton. I think your Baron Harkonnen was turning into a worm. I think that's what you used for Jabba the Hutt. I think all this character, Bosk the Bounty Hunter, he was based on the Gorn from Star Trek. Green Dancing Lady was Vina from Star Trek. Yeah. Everything in Star Wars you stole from someone else, and I hope that someday somebody has the brains to figure it out, okay? And I'm not going to stop telling the truth. Like I said, even till the day I die, I'll keep telling the truth. And then when people figure it out, you're going to even look worse for not having had the damn manliness to step up and say, okay, I made a mistake. I did this. So you're just going to make yourself look smaller. You know what I mean? You're a criminal, George. Anyway, the truth's going to come out, and it's just a matter of time. I mean, people are hearing it. People are starting to see. Again, you never mentioned God in Star Wars. You talk about, in that interview with Charlie Rose, you said you were going to include the older propaganda, but you never mentioned God. The only other older propaganda, because you were calling God all religion propaganda, but you never mentioned God, but yet you said you were using older propaganda, and the only thing that you could have been taken from religion is that Lucifer sitting in the cantina. You put Lucifer in the cantina, you never mentioned God, so everybody thinks you're godly, you're a Luciferian. I believe that now, because now that your attitude and the way you've never had the balls to step up and take credit for what you did. You've never tried to make it right. You left me in the gutter as a kid, which makes you a scumbag on top of that. And you took my paperwork from my whole childhood, and you had no business taking anything. Not even the piece of evidence that you wanted to protect yourself from. And I think what happened, George, is that one of your FBI agents sold you out and sold that piece of paper to the highest bidder. I bet they sold it to Disney, didn't they? And Disney blackmailed you into selling them Star Wars, right? The Disney blackmailed you, and that's why you turned around and called them white slavers, right, George? Right. You know what? The truth comes out eventually. It always does. Take care, George.